Hey, everybody. Let's welcome and let's get a pledge and prayer in if we could. I don't know if everybody can see this. I'm tucked behind the TV. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious God, we give you thanks for this beautiful day, and as our days get shorter and our nights get longer, we're reminded of the goodness that we have a chance to bring as light through our service to the world. We're mindful in this season that there's tragedy going on in the world, especially in schools and other places. So we pray that we can continue to find ways to find more peaceful solutions to our conflicts and find ways to share love and compassion and hope with the world. We pray all this in your holy name. Amen.
Thanks. Let's enjoy some lunch. I'll probably step back up here a couple minutes earlier today just to give our speaker a few extra minutes. All right, can everybody hear me? I know you guys are finishing up eating, and I would encourage you to continue doing that. I'm just going to get through some business items here so we can give our speaker a couple extra minutes up here. So a couple announcements from me. First off, campus is off for Christmas break, so there should be no tickets or anything like that necessary on parking. That's why we don't have the stickers today, in case you were wondering. Secondly, is anybody missing the tablecloths that used to be on these tables? Good. Last for me is I have the Lions of Michigan Foundation raffle tickets. These are, got 100 for our club. They're $10 each. They draw for the prizes in May. You don't have to be present to win. You can purchase them. You can purchase them for family members and put them in their stocking. You can purchase 10 of them yourself. If we sell all 100 tickets, our club gets $500 of that $1,000 we're raising. The other half goes to the foundation. So we've got some time. I'm going to bring them to every meeting, but all I really need is the cash or check from you. And you can just make it payable to our club if you're writing a check. And then you fill out the information for yourself or whomever you're buying it for on the stub and give it back to me. I'll mail them all off before the drawing. So we've got some time, but I just kind of wanted to start bringing it to everybody's attention. If you'd like any, let me know. I'll just have them. Just a couple other announcements. So I guess it was technically 2 Saturdays ago was kids holiday shopping at Meyer. Ann's not here. I don't think I saw Don. Don is there. There's Don. I don't know if you want to recap it, but it looked from the pictures and everything I heard, it was great. So first off, I just want to give a round of applause that Don did.
Really well organized, and it was a great day for everyone. Members love seeing the smiling faces and helping wrap presents, and it was just it was a great day. Great.
Thank you. And then this past Saturday, we had our holiday party at Blythefield. That was also a great event. Thank you to Kim and Rob, and also Ann, and I'm missing somebody. Bob Younger, and Scott involved too. Scott was not involved. Well, I put you in the newsletter, Scott, so you got special credit. And Ryan. So yeah, Ryan, for getting the present. So that was a great event. Thank you guys for that. I'd also just like to give you guys that. Next, I think Mr. Anderson has a presentation he'd like to do.
Each year, our club presents a Melvin Jones Fellowship Award, which is from Lions International, which represents $1,000 donated to the foundation. And last summer, we presented one, but we didn't have the award to hand out because they were backlogged with Lions Clubs International Foundation. So I'd like to ask John Rice to come up and receive his actual award. And you even get a special pin with it. Right here.
Don't punch it.
You know what? I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gary. Around. Box and. Thank you.
There's a box. So protected, John.
It's John and Gary. Last announcement from me anyway is that our next meeting, this is our last meeting of the year, obviously, calendar year. January 7th is the next meeting, and we have the chief of police for Grand Rapids coming to speak to us, so mark your calendars for that as well. With that, I'm gonna turn it over to the tail twister, unless anybody else has any other business with the club. Am I missing anybody? Okay.
Okay, hello, everybody. Merry Christmas to everyone. For those that are guests, you might not understand what I'm doing at first. We have pins that we wear, and you should try your best to wear a pin at all times. We all fail at that quite a bit. But when you come to a meeting, you should have a pin. And if you don't have a pin, you get to give me some money. And I haven't checked, but I'm sure there's a few pins that are missing. But even more important for today, since it's a holiday, there are a few people that I don't see any red. And that's just the way that we come forth and, you know, part of being a lion, at least in the Grand Rapids Lions Club. So I definitely want money on John Stiggin. Very good, Steve. Good job. Yeah.
Jamie, I
Yeah.
purposely wore green today. I'm disappointed you didn't recognize green. I'll pay my fine.
Apparently, there was another announcement that came out that was pretty big as far as, we got a lot of people coming and remember to wear red. Red? You got red? Well, good job. I can match those. Anybody else?
I was wondering what happened to the other half of the holiday colors, white.
Why? I'll give it to Snow. He did really pay. You know, so. Well, go, okay. Yep, there's Lynn. He missed it too. Okay. Running back for cookies, Ken? That's okay, what the heck? Okay, we got the red and the pins. And also, anybody that has any happy bucks? Ed's hand went up really fast.
Well, so they just did all the Nobel Prizes across the country. And my eldest grandson is getting his PhD at the University of Washington. And the professor that he is under just won the Nobel Prize for something in science.
Wow.
I'm gonna brag about my grandson in a second. He graduated from University of Colorado Boulder, cum laude, and biochemical engineering. They talk about things I can't even comprehend, much understand, but anyway. There's about a team of about 20 that are being tutored by this new Nobel Prize laureate. And my grandson was one of two, and he was the lead one to go with him to Sweden to receive the Nobel.
Oh, wow.
So pretty cool.
Anybody else with happy bucks?
Hey, top of that.
I don't, but I still got my happy buck out, because, you know, and, my happy buck is, last week, spent the week down in Texas with my sister and brother-in-law, and, so it was a nice trip, and we haven't seen them in about 7 or 8 years, so, we were together for 5 days, and the TV never came on.
There's another 7 years before we see him again.
I'm giving this happy buck because this Friday, I'm entertaining my daughter and her family from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Many of you don't know the story, some of you do. I found a daughter a couple years ago that I did not know I had. And she and her family are gonna come and visit us at our place, and pretty much looking forward to it.
And, anybody else? Cool. Didn't see it. Thank you.
I'll give $1 for celebrating a wonderful holiday.
Yeah. He paid $50, but he's the only one that got a point. Anybody else?
That one's for you.
And, now, I know we have some guests here. I don't know if they're to be introduced now or,
I'll introduce you.
okay, you're gonna introduce, okay, thank you. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Raffle,
Right, forgot about that.
Scott's ready.
Okay, so you don't go first,
What chip's going in?
open your tickets, first one wins $5, second one gets Hampton $5. Yeah,
Should be, little north of $500.
wow.
The last 4 digits, 4459.
Oh.
Good for a meeting. The next one, the white chip has been dropped in. Our president tells me he dropped it in. I didn't see it, so I can't verify. But
Last 4 digits, 4534.
Oh, Kyle.
I promise I dropped it. But I actually put 2 of them in there.
okay. See who's bag in here.
Red.
Oh. Okay, and what's that? I gotta get up.
All right, I'll have, John come up and introduce our speaker today for us.
Kyle, did those lights turn this on?
Good afternoon, fellow life. Let me introduce to you, our speaker today is Joe Koenig, and his wife Julie is here as well. Over here at our guest table. And after today, if you'd like, Joe has some books over here that are phenomenal. I've read them. They're incredible. So please, he has extra copies for sale. Joe is a certified fraud examiner. That's known as a CFE, and forensic linguistics, which is court certified expert witness for interviewing and interrogations. He retired from the Michigan State Police after 26 years and has 50+ years of investigative experience in public and private sectors. He is the award-winning author of 2 books on forensic linguistics, Getting the Truth, which he wrote in 2014, and in 2019, Getting the Truth, I Am D.B. Cooper. He investigated, supervised investigations in homicides, organized crime, financial crimes, narcotics, and public corruption. He was the lead investigator into the disappearance, Jimmy R. Hoffel. Joe is past president of the Michigan FBI National Academy Associates, a certified fraud examiner, holds a BS in accounting from Wayne State University, and an MPA from Eastern Michigan University, where he received the Pi Kappa Pi honors. He now owns and operates KMI Investigations in Michigan, specializing in financial fraud, investigations, and forensic linguistics. Phone lines, please welcome Joe.
Great to see John Rice receive an award because he is a very classy man. My wife Julie was introduced. 53 years we've been married. And I have 2 guests. On the left in the brown coat is Charles Rominger. And on the right is Josh Kuiper, 2 citizens of this area, great citizens. Okay. Now, can you all hear me if I do not use a mic? You want me to use it? I'll use it.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Well, I've got, Kyle, how far do you want me to go? It's 10-1 now.
You have 40 minutes?
1:30.
Excellent.
1:30 is the cutoff.
Okay, all right, I have to move through this pretty quickly, but this is about forensic linguistics. Using this, we get down into the biology of conversation, communication. So we're gonna be looking at the molecules and cells of a conversation through a microscope. Because that's the way, that's what you have to do in order to really understand the communication process, which is a very complex process. The origin of the word communications is to make common. We need to understand each other. Common language. Understanding the real message. I won't spend much time on this, but we'll talk about distinguishing truth from deception. Lies aren't really what you think they are. They're really partial truths. That's how you have to think about it, because most statements you hear contain partial truths, and they also contain some lies. So that's what makes it so difficult, when somebody's talking to you and you're trying to determine if they're telling you the truth. They are telling you the truth, partially, but they're leaving things out that would give you the complete truth. And that's what makes this so difficult to decipher who is deceptive and who's telling the truth. And the importance of contamination. When you ask a question, you contaminate. Simply by being present, you contaminate. The room contaminates, noises contaminate, your reputation contaminates. All of it contaminates. And by contaminates, I mean it affects the response. So if I walk into a room and the person knows that I'm a retired inspector from the Michigan State Police, that contaminates the response without me even saying anything. So you've got to understand that. Contamination is always present and it affects the response. So you have to consider that when interpreting the response. Bias and prejudice affect how you receive messages, and I'll show you some examples of that. So because questions contaminate, you really have to think about your questions when you ask the question, because it will contaminate the response, and I'll show you some good examples of how that happens. Words mean different things to different people. Words are really signs. Your name is just a sign. It doesn't identify you, except the people who know you, but your names are just signs. Words are just signs, symbols, subject to interpretation. That's why I always use this question when I interview someone, and it doesn't make me look that bright on a transcript. And I say, what do you mean when you said the man? It doesn't look good, but it's the right question. You have to force people to define their words so there is a mutual understanding of what that word means when you use it in a question. Otherwise, I was at a deposition once, and the attorney asked the woman several questions. One of the questions was, do you have any chattel? I knew she didn't know what chattel was, but the attorney accepted the answer without even pursuing that. Now, that can really cause problems. So mutual understanding. I underestimate nobody, I respect everybody. No communications preceded by thought. That quote was from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But you've got to understand, in order to understand communications, you have to realize that every element of communication, conversation, of body language, of any communication is the result of a decision. Somebody, the person who is communicating is making a decision when they use a particular word or move their hand in this way. Notice my hands are in tune, in sync with my verbiage. That's another thing you look at when you're trying to determine deception. But everything we communicate is the result of a decision. So there are no Freudian slips. There are no mistakes. So when somebody says something, they meant to say it. Remember that. And don't discount that. Oh, they were just busy, or they were thinking of something else. Don't think that. That'll take you down the wrong track. What they say is what they meant. Okay, understanding the real message. Know what was communicated and why, and maybe even more importantly, what wasn't communicated and why. Because it's what wasn't communicated is sometimes the most important part of the message. When a politician doesn't answer the question, they did, okay? You see it all the time. Here's a little example. In World War II, planes were coming back with holes in these portions of, so they put armor on these portions, sent them back out. The planes came back with holes again in those same locations. So one guy thought, maybe the planes that aren't coming back are getting holes in the locations where we don't see it. So it's what wasn't there that's most important. So they put armor in those areas where there weren't bullet holes and more planes came back, okay? Here is, I used to work for a large bank in internal audit. And one day a woman comes in and she said, I was recently divorced from Terry, a teller works in Gavon, and he is taking checks made out personally to me, pocketing them. Well, banks can't tolerate that. We have strict, or they have strict requirements. So I asked all and there were, well, this is a different story. Hold on. I've got my stories mixed up. This is a young lady, was one of 13 tellers in a branch where they had missing money from her box. And all 13 employees who had access to that area were suspects. So I gave them a questionnaire, and on one of the questionnaires, this is what I got from one of the ladies, one of the tellers. I'm an honest person. I would never, will never get a penny from anybody that does not belong to me. This is totally against my principles and my family principles. I don't take cash even from my husband's wallet without telling him this is totally a nonsense situation. Everybody who knows me know, note there's no S on that, I am a reliable and honest person. What's missing? There's no denial, is there? When a truthful person has the ability to deny something, they do it. When they don't, that's meaningful. This lady took the money. Questions to consider. Question or command. CIA and KGB use commands. Tell me what happened, as opposed to, will you tell me what happened? The question is a much softer approach. There may be a strategy to use that. I typically use the command because I want to keep the pressure on the subject. Truthful subjects are less stressed than untruthful subjects. It's stressful to lie. And I point that out repeatedly in my book. There's peace in truth. And I'll give you a couple examples of that, how people relieve that stress by telling the truth. For example, Alcoholics Anonymous. If you belong to AA, the first thing you have to do on your road to recovery is to admit, I am an alcoholic. Notice the pronoun I is very specific. Holds you accountable. I, there's no other I. Me, that's it. So there's a lot of precision in that pronoun. I am presently an alcoholic. When people give that direct, precise, and simple a statement, there's very little room to commit a complete lie. They can do it, they can say it if they're committing a complete lie, but people don't do that. They tell partial lies. There's partial truth. For instance, if somebody gets up and says, right now, I am an alcoholic. Or if they say, I was an alcoholic, it's no good. I am an alcoholic. Okay, so question or command? Some questions that I would ask that are structured appropriately. I quite often use that phrase, no, that doesn't show that phrase halfway down. What do you mean when you say? I often use that because I want to mutually understand. If I were to ask a husband whose wife was just killed, and I go there the next day, and I ask him, John, I'm very sorry for your loss. Did you kill her? I may ask that question. I mean, my strategy may be to hit him right away with it. Depending, I mean, that would be unusual, but I may well do that. But before I use that, John, I'm going to use the word murder, or I'm going to use the word kill, whichever. In my question, what does that word mean to you? Then when I get his definition, then we have a mutual understanding, and then I can use that word in the question, but not until, because some very religious people think only God can kill. I was the vehicle. I helped God, but God killed that person. So you gotta be careful. They use rationalization all the time. Tell me why you think I'm here. I solved a case. I was on a forensic accounting team that looked into some material missing money at a bank. And I interviewed the financial team. There were 4 or 5 executives on that team. And the method I use, I write out a question in my own handwriting on plain white paper. It's unstructured for a reason. That makes it a little more difficult for the responder to respond. There's no structure, there's no line to follow. So I used this plain white paper, and I had my first executive in there, and I asked him, tell me why you think I'm here. And then let him respond in his own handwriting. Hallmark made a fortune by having people write out responses instead of having face-to-face responses. People respond differently in writing than they do face-to-face. I love you is hard to say face to face. But it's easier to say in writing, okay? So we take advantage of that. And you should as well if you're seeking the truth. So I asked him the question, tell me why you think I'm here. And he responds eventually, the treasurer is having me sign my name to statements that were supposed to be prepared by me. He prepares them and then asks me to sign my name. Well, I got that story from two separate individuals, and they wouldn't have known what the other said. Very good information. So it was that information where we found that the treasurer was creating maybe false reports that we helped solve that missing money issue. But without that question, if I went in there and said, what can you tell me about the missing money? I may have missed that. Okay. Sometimes the best question is none at all. Barbara Walters was a great interview, as are you. Great interview. And one of her powerful methods was to ask a celebrity the question, and then while the camera's rolling, just keep quiet. Keep that pressure to get the answer. Don't relieve them by interrupting or helping them. Let them answer. So sometimes the best question is none at all. I asked the pastor, may I smoke while I pray? Absolutely not. May I pray while I smoke? Absolutely. It's how you structure the question makes a big difference. Calibrate, and this is why there's a difference. I calibrate to everybody I interview. The introductory phase where I'm introducing myself, or I may not introduce myself, but I ask them, what is your full name? Where do you live? How long have you lived there? How long have you worked for the company? Do you have any children? You know, something like that. But it's during that period where I get a fix for their communication pattern, how they form their words, how they breathe. Do they look me in the eye? The blinking rate, their hand movements. Do they move their feet? How about the tone, the volume, the enunciation? Is there an accent? All of that goes into determining their communication pattern. So once you get a fix on their communication pattern or calibrate to their communication pattern, then you get into the meat of the interview where you ask these tougher questions and see if there's a change in that pattern. A truthful pattern, a truthful person will have fewer changes. Anything can create a change, like a deception is one. Could be they're thinking about a relationship that's interfering with the interview. Could be they don't tell you something because they might get someone else in trouble. Could be they're not sure. Could be they don't understand the question. All those things can cause a change in communication pattern. So it's up to us to determine what that is. Yes, sir.
Whether accurate or not, all the TV shows that are on now, the first thing they do is when they bring a suspect in questioning, they lawyer up. Is that really happening? And does that change the tone of the questioning if they have a lawyer present versus without?
It shouldn't, quite frankly. I mean, if you've got a good investigator, it shouldn't matter who's there. I mean, a good ethical investigator will ask the same question whether an attorney is there or not. So, good question. Communication pattern, we've already talked about that. They can be like these blind, for blind people, these embedded in the crosswalk to tell them that there's danger ahead. This is an intersection. Here's Jerry Sandusky's statement, only statement. For those of you who don't, does everybody remember Jerry Sandusky? He was the coach, Penn State, who was convicted of pedophilic activity. Anyway, he gave only one statement, denial statement on what he was convicted on. Now, I don't want you, this is busy, I don't want you to read the whole thing. I just want you to look at the red areas. And as we look at that, those are contractions. Now, to me, we talked about lower stress levels. So a person who's telling the truth is under less stress than a person who's being deceptive. Contractions are characteristic of someone who is under less stress. If you were to write a letter to the President of the United States, you probably wouldn't use a contraction. It would be more formal. You would say, I am, or why did you not? You would spell those words out. That shows a higher level of stress to a professional like me. Now, he's using the contractions here, so there's no stress throughout this whole statement until he gets down to this area where the arrow is, which is where his actual denial is. So there's a pattern created here by he's using contractions. Now, when he gets down to in my heart, I know, which is a qualifier, I did not do these alleged disgusting acts. He didn't continue that pattern and say, I didn't do these alleged disgusting acts. That to me is a change in communication pattern, meaningful, makes this denial a bad one, okay? Look, don't read. This is another case, this is the, I gave you a preview of this case. This is the teller, Jared. His wife came in and said, hey, he's taking personal checks and pocketing the money. So I went to meet with Jerry and I escorted him into a conference room. Now, he had already been contaminated before I even got him, okay? Before I even saw him. Some supervisor had told him, internal wants to talk to you about something. I don't know what they told him, but I know he's contaminated. So there's nothing I can do about that. So I asked him to walk with me into a conference room. And when I sit down, I have this stack of plain white paper, 2 pens, one blue, one black, and I write out, tell me what happened. And to further minimize contamination, I tell him, I'm gonna leave the room, leave you alone to respond to that command. And when you're done, come knock on the door and I'll come in and look at your statement, okay? So I leave the room, he does that after a few minutes, he knocks on the door, I come back in and I look at his statement. Now you're gonna see page 4 of 5 pages. I want you to just look at it real quick and then I'm gonna take it back because I don't want you to read it, I just want you to look at it. Here goes. And what did you see? Change in handwriting, right? Okay, let's look at this.
No.
Look at the change. Look all through here how fluent, almost carefree. I mean, handwriting is a communication pattern, okay? Handwriting alone is a communication pattern. So all of this looks like there's no stress. stress this until you get to here. Where he says, she said to sign her name. Well, that's why we're here. And it's curious that the change, the significant change occurs right where the critical question is asked. So I know I'm onto something here, and I further analyze this and I look at and see she stated here. All right, hold on here. No. No signal. There we go. Ah, now we're almost back to normal. But here he's going, he's saying she stated. Then we go through here some more. She stated. Stated, see that one? And then we go from that to she said. So we have another change in communication pattern. Remember, every word, every element of communication is the result of a decision. For some reason, he didn't want to say she stated. He changed it to she said. That's yet another change. So I think I have good reason to believe he's being deceptive and I get a confession. So these things really help. Now, in forensic, let me give you a little grammar lesson. Active voice. Johnny threw the ball, past tense. Johnny, active voice, past tense. Johnny threw the ball. Johnny caught the ball, active voice. You know who the actor is and you know what he did. Then there's the passive voice. The ball was thrown. You don't know who did it, right? The ball was caught. That's passive voice, past tense. Passive voice is the favored voice of the deceptive because they can tell you something and unless you pursue it, you don't know who threw the ball or who caught the ball. The police officers do that all too often. And as attorneys, you gotta remember that. That will come in handy as we move along here in this discussion. And I know I want to leave this open for some questions. This is an insurance fraud case, and I just want you to look at that first paragraph. Forensic linguistics will help you speed read, believe me, because when somebody gives you a response where they say, what I can say is, you can disregard what follows because you can't rely on it. People can say anything. What I can tell you is this, disregard it. So you can speed read through that. Okay, so I came home around 10 p.m. in the evening. Active voice, past tense, looks like a truthful statement to me. In the evening is redundant. Deceptive people, one of their ploys is to give you artillery, more information than you need. In this case, they're saying in the evening, 10 p.m. is the evening. I don't need that. It's just something to know, not that significant. The next sentence is very significant. I parked the car in our driveway. I would have expected, this is active voice, past tense. However, I would have expected, in pronouns, you find 80% of your deceptive statements can be identified through pronouns. In this case, I parked the car in our driveway. I parked the car. I would have expected my car. Or our car. I mean, after all, he possesses his driveway, but he didn't possess the car. He's reporting as stolen. Strange to me. And then he moves from active voice, past tense, to the passive language. Big giveaway for a deceptive statement. When somebody does that. The doors were locked by whom? And the alarm was activated by whom? He's concealing that. Why? Because it didn't happen. I got a confession. He was arrested for a false police report. His claim was denied. Policy canceled. He couldn't keep up with his car payments, so he took his car, had a buddy follow him down a lonely old road, broke the window, pocketed some glass, torched the car, drove his buddy's car back to his home. So he parked the car, his buddy's car. He's actually telling the truth in that second statement. People want to tell the truth. Remember that. Okay. Let me know, Kyle, when I got 5 minutes, okay? Here's my grandson. I gave him a sandwich, looked just like that. I said, you eat that sandwich and I'll give you an ice cream sandwich. Okay. So I come back later and of course it's gone, plate's empty. I said, did you eat your sandwich? Yes. Did you eat all of it? I think so. Change in communication pattern. And just a side note, I didn't believe him then. And I looked in a trash can that was quite a ways from where he was eating, nothing in there. Then I went across the hall, down the hall into another room, a trash can there, and I found 2 pieces of that sandwich. I still gave him a sandwich. Pronouns are very important. Here's another case. I've got a birthday, January 22nd, 2 absolutely beautiful daughters. And they posted this on my Facebook page. Happy birthday, Dad. I love you. And Jackson sends his newly learned kisses. Number 2, happy birthday to the best dad ever. Love you. Now, which daughter did I have an argument with 2 days before this? Number 2, why? I'm missing the I in I love you. I got the I back later. I still have it. But the I love you is very, very precious. It's accountable, it's precision. I love you. There's no room for error in that. Love you is nice, but much less meaningful. Othering. You see this in a lot of political campaigns. Hitler was a great one to use othering. Us versus them, we versus they, our versus their. You belong to a group or you don't. And that can tell you a lot. If you're interviewing an employee for hire and you talk about their old employer and they use us, we, our, you probably got a good candidate. If they use them, they, their, you probably don't. Okay, there was some animosity there. Why? Here, you can use this in recruiting. I love college sports, so I watch this stuff. This is Robert Hainsey in 2017. He was a 4-star guard, much sought after. And he talked to the newspaper, and he had 3 colleges he was interested in: Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame. When I read this, I fired off an email to the sports editors at the South Bend Tribune, 3 of them. And I said, as of this date, Robert Hainsey is committed to Notre Dame. And in July, he committed to Notre Dame. Now, how did I know that? Because of the days. In Michigan, look at all the days, in Michigan State, they and there, none of that in Notre Dame, okay? Tells me he's bought into their program. The others are other. Same with this, if you get, a letter or an email from somebody and they're talking about their family, if they say my son, let's say they have two sons. And they identify one son as my son, and then they also talk about their other son. That tells you that there's some distance between him and his other son. That can be important. If they say instead my youngest son, that's differentiation without othering. It's being, it's giving specificity, identification is all, as opposed to my other son, which is purely distance. The side, these things talked about peace and truthful people are more at peace. As you tell the truth, you release stress. That's why the alcoholic can then build a foundation off the truth, which is, I am an alcoholic. So this one teller was accused of embezzlement. As I escorted her into the conference room, before I said a word, she sighed. She released her stress as she entered the room. And I knew immediately that she probably did embezzle, and I got a confession. But it's that release of stress you're looking for, and you just listen for that. So you use all your senses when you're interviewing. I think I'll end with this one, Kyle. Real memories are physically different than created ones. Your first kiss, you probably remember your first kiss, because all your senses were alive. I remember a car crash I was involved in where a truck rear-ended me. I remember the loud smash as if it happened yesterday. So for real memories, you've got physical, sense-oriented memories that are embedded in your brain, physical connections, synapses that are created as a result of those memories. Created ones don't have that. And that's how you can see the tracks they leave when they try to tell you a story that didn't happen. Okay, any quick questions? Yes, sir.
What do you think really happened to Jimmy Hoffman? What do you mean by that?
I think we've been breathing Jimmy Hoffman for many, many years. The mob, especially on such a highly visible and known character as Jimmy Hoffa, they would have minimized the risk. So they had to abduct him in a way that wouldn't raise attention. They had to take him to a place that wouldn't raise suspicion. And then they had to eliminate him and eliminate his body so there's no evidence. So the movie, The Irishman or whatever it was, where it says they took him all the way down to a home in Detroit where the homes are this far apart, didn't happen. They wouldn't have done that. Too risky. Absolutely too risky. Any other questions? Okay.
I think you have one question back.
Yes, sir.
Pretty legal advice for the gentleman here. If you're a suspect, you have an attorney that lets you make a statement, get rid of that attorney. You're gonna get checked, I'm gonna talk your way out of the You're gonna undermine your defense.
If you couldn't guess Josh's.
Right. Okay, flags, going my.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Our appreciation for you, taking it. We'll see you all January 7th. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and happy New Year.